today with our good friend Don Mazzella. We were supposed to have Larry Tracy with us as well. However, Larry is not able to join us because apparently an hour before this show was due to start taping, Larry's cell phone shot craps. So he said that he isn't able to make it happen today. So we are at some point going to get Larry back on the show with me and Don, and we will have a discussion, I guess. But it is me and Don Mazzella today, and we are going to discuss in this hour last year, 2024, and already 2025 is off and running, and it's only the 6th day of the year. I welcome in the best-selling author and SB podcast host, the fantastic Don Mazzella. Don, how are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. And yourself?
Pretty good, actually. So I want to get your thoughts on what the hell happened, in your opinion, last year. What did you think of last year, 2024, from everything, from the politics stuff to technology to all over the place?
Well, I think the most important thing that's come out of last year is that people have lost faith in government. Overall,
Yes.
I mean, when you asked me to be on this program, I was really looking forward to hearing Larry's opinions. But the thing that I've seen over this last year is people are simply not trusting government. I mean, you look at issues. Our government says something and people immediately say it isn't true. The first words are not true, rather than let me think about it. I'll just give you an example. Last week, they talked about liquor being bad for you. I'm sorry, 90% of the American people really took that as a shock. But more importantly, they didn't believe it. And whether it's true or not, you know, they talked about saccharin being bad for you years ago, people, APAR being bad for you, and people immediately stopped using it. But you turn around, and I'm sure the liquor sales did not go down this weekend.
No, I'm sure they didn't either.
But if you go across the world, you see the lack of faith, the lack in what government can do for you, and look at it a different way. Governments have failed throughout the world. Governments have failed.
Yep.
Whether they're in Russia, whether in Ukraine, whether in Africa, every place you go to the Pacific island of Tonga, they had it. So that's, to me, that's the number one thing that's gone wrong in this country. The only good thing, I'm sure you'd say this, and so would other people, IQ, etc. The only good thing that come out of it is Trump won. I mean,
yeah, I'll have to say that I was really happy that Kamala did not win, just based upon the fact that I was really excited when she first started running, and then all of a sudden she's like, Dick Cheney is my best friend. I'm like, uh-oh. I guess this is over. So then Trump started doing the stuff that Trump did in 2016. I want to actually do things to benefit people. And I'm like, okay, maybe this will happen. I honestly thought that once he got elected, every promise he made, he was going to break. I didn't figure he'd put RFK in there. I figured all these people that he said, oh yeah, I'll get you jobs. And then he'd be like, nope. Because that's just what Trump is. Anybody that knows anything about Trump knows he loves to say things, but if you're the last person in the room, he's gonna go with what they want.
That's interesting you say that. But if you look at the Trump organization, it has many, many, many longtime employees.
Yes.
Okay, and you have his CFO taking a bullet for him in the New York trials, if you recall.
Yeah.
So um, uh, I know he's famous for "you're fired," but these people wouldn't stay that long with him if he acted that way as the man who wrote the signs their checks.
Yeah.
So uh, uh, you know, I remember in his first term, he took all the hit and the shots while the people in his administration went about redeeming all of his promises. Don't forget, he's the only president in the last 40 years that uh, 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 um, came through with
Yep.
the four major promises of of his campaign.
Yes.
So you and I agreed. I felt he should have gone home after last January 6th, but
Well,
he
and
didn't
and
go
see
out.
this is something that you and I can agree on. and you're the only person that I can have this conversation with, because everybody else, either they just can't stand Trump and they will not listen to reason, or they are so in love with Trump that they won't listen to reason. I When he lost to Biden, whether you want to whether whatever you want to believe, whether you believe he lost, he didn't lose, whatever. My feeling was he needed to leave.
Yeah.
He needed to go. Now, maybe it's a situation if he went home, he learned some, as Jim Ross in the world of pro wrestling says, he went off and learned a new hold. But maybe that's what happened. But I will have to say that when Biden became the president, I I'm glad, just because we needed a break. We needed a break from all that craziness.
I disagree with you on one point. Biden was a disaster.
Well, yeah. Biden was a disaster all the way around. But the thing with Trump was that he was gonna do all sorts of craziness. And I think that now that he's been gone for a little bit, he might not come back and do craziness. He's probably still gonna do some crazy. As they all do. Like with Biden the other day and that whole "I'm going to give everybody an award"
Mm.
thing. Of like, none of these awards mean anything anymore. These medals of freedom, none of these things mean anything. But we'll get into that when we start talking about what's happened this year so far. But go ahead. What you were saying there, Don. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, if you don't catch me with my mouth open, I forget. You know, let's talk about what's happened, and then we can. The third thing that's happened is America has finally awakened to the border crisis.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, if you ask me, what is the major happening of last year was America's awakening to the border crisis, and I think it's very important that we keep that front and center, because we have 2+ million people in this country who are essentially not contributing to its economy. They're sucking it.
Yep.
They're sucking. Okay, and eventually that pays takes its toll. But let me, at this point, say a very important thing. You realize how the strength of the American economy. Uh, you know, we've talked about how terrible it is Yeah, we have inflation, but inflation happens to every economy. As Adam Smith said, um, no, not Adam Smith the economist, but Adam Smith our contemporary economist, whose name I forget, but I knew him as Adam Smith. But he said inflation. But the point is, we're entering 2025. Um, uh, right now, the market is up. Um, it's expected to steamroll at least for another couple of months. The the money we're investing in the government. Uh, One thing Biden did is finally unleashed the government's ability to help companies um, make the changes necessary to really jumpstart this economy into the 21st century. I mean, we created the 21st century, but we weren't benefiting from it. But if you look at all the things that uh, these incentives are doing, I think we're going to be in a very good position in the next 2 or 3 years. Um, Lease-wise, perhaps we're making a mistake, but I was just talking to my wife. We're heavily invested in the stock market, and I said, "Do we want to get out?" And she said, "No, not. I don't think so." And she's the one that's made all of the smart investments, so I'm going to go with her. Um, but everybody I talked to, and I talked to some people last week who are much smarter than me and are much more plugged in, and they all seem to be pretty sanguine about the economy, at least for the first 6 months of this year. So, but they all point out the same thing: how resilient the American economy. So that's another thing I think that last year pointed out. The other thing is we're finally getting rid of the wokeism. I think that's a very important statement. I mean, when finally all these companies that went into the faddish about promoting because based on who you were rather than what you could do, I think that's hurt this economy. And by the way, it's a very important point is that it has weakened our military tremendously. We never talk about it on your show, but I do still have military contacts and who are pretty level-headed. And this guy that died in Las Vegas, I mean, you think the fellow who blew up the Tesla car. Um, he was worried. Yeah, he had delusions, but it's interesting. Over the weekend, I was talking to a brigadier general um, who commands a pretty important combat unit, and he said we were seriously weakened by the requirement that you promote people not based on what they did, but on who they were, particularly women. I, 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 I'm going to get killed for this one, but I'm going to say, uh, you you've never found God until you've been in the foxhole, okay? But you sure
Well,
hope
there
that
is
the guy
that.
sitting next to you in that foxhole knows what he's doing, and if they don't, you're in trouble. So, and there's a point to that. And not to say that my wife just shoveled the driveway. I couldn't do it. My wife did. I mean, women can certainly do everything men can do, but can they do it as long and as for as long a period and as heavy as a man can? In most cases, they can't. So, and that's what the officer was trying to get across. Not that they didn't believe they could do the job, but that's I just saw a special on Guadalcanal. You went to, You went 24 hours without sleep, 48 hours without sleep. I mean, it's a,
That sounds like a nightmare.
you know,
Wow.
as you know, I've been in a few conflicts, but I could always go home. The guys with me couldn't.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. That's why I never say anything. Um, anyway, so do you want? I got one more. If you
Yeah,
want,
go ahead, Don. Go ahead, baby. Go ahead.
um, you know, I guess the other side is maybe we're getting a little bit more realistic about the programs we're seeing and the people we're seeing and how we're seeing. Um, I'm talking about Hollywood. I'm talking about uh, shows, TV, or whatever else you got to say. Uh, um, um, Tesla. Who's the Tesla guy? Uh, what's his
Oh, Elon Musk.
Musk?
Or as
You know,
Bubba the Love Sponge calls him, Ilion Musk.
but but he wasn't wrong with what he said. So and him buying X, uh, uh, I think is good. I think it's good for the conservatives in this country. By the way, let me just jump into one thought. Have you been watching these? There's several guys on YouTube that have been putting together, uh, watching the various media, CBS, NBC, on election night, as they went from so pro Carmelo to what he won again. Have you seen these programs?
No, I have not.
You should. They're the CBC, the Canadian. It just I was up last night and I just happened to catch one of the last of the shows. But if you get a chance, you really should because it shows you how the media um, has um, uh, really sold itself to the Democratic Party. And you know I'm a media man, and I try to be neutral. But it was really sad. I didn't watch any of it when I was on your show, election night. But if you look at, at these people, and the people they had on the program, as you may remember, I did the first as a copy boy. I did the first of those shows with NBC in 1964, and I remember how they tried to bend over um, backwards, not to offend Barry Goldwater, and not to. All of the newsmen were all for Johnson, and how they acted. So what I did on Friday night is watch an old kinescope of the '64 NBC election. Um, I won't go into how I was able to, but and I watched Frank McGee, Ed Newman, and the guys there, Huntley Brinkley, how they really tried. It was obvious by 9 o'clock that that Johnson had won, and how they were trying to be uh, so even-handed. Anyway, my you have another question for me?
Well, we have got Don Mazzella with us today. He, of course, is helping us kind of review the year that was in 2024 and talking about the year coming up in 2025, which is even crazier to say because I thought we'd have flying cars and things by now. We'd be the Jetsons, but that's not going to happen. So, so Don, what do you make of the reaction to this year with, you know, people are starting to, I guess, rise up politically, like in France, the conservatives and the progressives got together and went, we don't like our government, and they threw them out. And you're starting to see that in the United States where the progressives and the conservatives are starting to get together. And they're like, we don't like corruption. You guys don't like corruption. This is perfect. What do you make of things like that?
Well, I think it's both dangerous and wonderful, both ways. because you know, um, people can act in concert. I'll go back to the resistance movement in France during World War II. You can act in concert when you're trying to achieve something like the overthrow, but then when you get to rule, that's when the fun begins. I mean, uh, and that's when the danger begins. Uh, you know, who ends up on top? It's very interesting in the Syria. We're seeing it today in Syria. You know, which of the units are going to end up running the country? When people of two sides get together, no matter, no matter what they say, they can't stay together. And that to me is the dangerous part. Um, I'm looking ahead to the Senate hearings for for Trump's nominees because there's the fault line is going to start to appear. The Democrats could say all they want about how they're going to put feet to the fire of his nominees, but in the end, the majority will allow if on the Republican side they can stay together, which is which has not been a trait of the Republican Party for the last 20 years. And on the other side, can the progressives find a way to to be heard, to be important? The interesting thing is Schumer is still a minority leader. You know, there was an attempt to knock him out, but you can rest assured, 2 years from now, there will be an attempt to ride him out on the rails because if nothing else, he's going to have a narrow Senate election campaign because 3 or 4 people, including AOC, are going to jump in to try to derail him. So, you know, uh, getting together is a good idea if you can figure out what you do after you win. That to me is the real issue.
We have got Don Mazzella with us today. He joins us live here on our program. So let's do this. Let's shift gears and look at but before we do the the new year, um, I was looking at. Let me see if I can pull this up again. I was looking at Talkers Magazine. They sent out a deal earlier today where they always like to run down the list of things that potentially people were talking about last year on radio and all these various places. And so I wanted to pull up this list and see if this is actually what people were. Because Don pays attention to everything. He pays attention to the news, he pays attention to radio, TV, all these things. So one of the biggest topics was the 2024 election, which we talked about earlier. Another thing that apparently people everywhere were talking about was Trump's legal issues. Was that big of a story last year?
Oh yeah, but the New York Times on Sunday, Sunday, ran a very interesting story of how Trump took the issue and turned it on its head, and instead of making it a drag on his presidency, actually propelled him. According to the Times, and you know how much I love the Times. uh, um, um, the two major things that propelled the election, besides the incompetence of the Democratic candidate, was um, how he changed the narrative. If you ask 90% of the American public, whether Republican, Democratic, Independent, and they all would agree that, and by the way, this is not me talking, but every poll, in that um, uh, focus group surfaced this. No one believed that what lawfare was fair to Trump. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, most people felt this. Excuse me, it's my phone, and God forbid I shut it off. Um, Believed that it was trumped up. Uh, and but the worst part about it is, in the focus groups, they pointed out a very important thing. The people, most people, reacted the way I did, and maybe you did. If they could do it to an ex-president of the United States, what's to prevent them from doing it to you? I mean, think about it. I mean, have we ever exaggerated our salaries in order to get a loan or for a mortgage? I would, um, you know, I had a friend of mine uh,
Yeah.
works for a major mortgage company, and and I asked him. I said, "Do you ever believe the salary?" And I said, "No. We we automatically cut it in half before we start the underwriting," which
Yeah.
surprised me. Now he works for one of the major mortgage companies, so um, uh, that that was number one. Uh, and number two was uh, uh, Trump's um, focus on the media, uh, really focusing on the undecided votes. I mean, the New York Times article should be in every politician's box to be read because it really could. And Trump turned it around and introduced us who have podcasts, and Joe Grogan, his appearance. Did you go and listen to the Grogan's 3 hours with Trump?
Yes, and I what I thought was so funny was that Joe kept trying to keep him on pace, and he couldn't do it. And at one point, he just kind of gave up. However, one of the things that I always like to point out that was said on that show that no one ever likes to talk about is that Rogan was like, "Let's release the FBI files from the JFK assassination," and Trump's like, "I would love to, but there are people that are mentioned in there that are still alive," and I'm like, "Whoa, what?" That always just gets glossed over. Um, I think there was something else in there, but at one point, Joe just kind of gives up and they start talking MMA. Because that's the only thing you can keep Trump focused on is sports. That's really all it is.
True, but he came across as Joe everybody.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the media painted him one way, and on the Rogan show and the other two shows that he appeared on, simply what it is. Yeah, he's if in a country club, he'd be the party chairman, and but he'd be the guy
Yep.
everybody would love. So, and by the way,
And that is one reason why Kamala should have went on that damn show.
yeah, oh yeah,
I know that she didn't want to do it because Rogan wanted to talk about pot. She's not going to talk about legalizing pot and all these other things, but that could have humanized her, and that could have got people back into the, well, maybe she's not a bad gal after all. No,
don't make no mistake about it. In the opinion of people who know better than me, she's not a good person.
No, No, and that's
We
at some point there'll be another Democrat president that'll give her an award at some point
oh,
too.
oh, I don't know if you saw that the presidential gala, the Bidens ignored Kamala and their husband, but I like it.
Oh boy.
She raised someone sent us a cartoon. She raised $1 billion, but she ended up $20 million in the debt, and she was going to teach us how to improve the economy.
That's right.
So, I mean, we were all making fun of her, but again, every one of us would love to have been.
Oh yeah. I would. You know, there's so many things that I would have done that the New World Order wouldn't have liked if I was running for president or president. But we have got the fantastic Don Mazzella with us today from SB Digest. He joins us here on our broadcast. Before we start talking about the new year, one of the things that Don advocates for is robotics. And one of the big technology stories this year was AI. People used AI for everything. What did you think of the whole AI trend for this year?
Well, you got to be careful. I got to be careful because my wife is an expert on AI. I mean, she is like one of the top people, and we have the National Robotics Education Foundation.
Yep.
But it's like everything else in life. People just are lemmings. That one person goes in that direction, everybody. I mean, I just saw the other day where the AI is being applied to the funeral industry.
God damn. I'll have to talk to Niall Nickel about that next week.
But the point is, well, what can you say when you, to quote the line from Dracula, when you're dead, you're dead. You know what I mean? And AI can't make you change that. But they're applying it to the funeral industry and just about every place else. But as my wife points out, it's the whole line: garbage in is garbage out, and then, until you
Yes.
it's what you put into it and how you ask the question that becomes the key to it. Is it changing our lives? There's no question. In the medical field, there is absolutely no question that we will, over time, solve a lot of illness because it can do what is the one thing scientists can't do. They don't know. No scientist knows everything about anything.
Yep.
So that's where it's going to be most impactful. Certainly being impactful on the battlefield in the Ukraine. It's here to stay, but I'll give you the old a story from, let's see, it's got to be easily the 1960s. So that's how old it is. But world scientists feed into the computer all of man's knowledge and ask it one question. So they get it ready and they pop the question: is there a God? And the computer replies, "There is now."
Yes, that is that is definitely.
What is the danger is that computer programs, AI programs, are reproducing themselves, are creating new programs that we are not aware of. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I read a thing earlier today that there is an. I'll find that and we'll talk about it here. It was on the Drudge Report, of course, and apparently there is a thing in An uncensored dark web AI chatbot is offering a step-by-step guide on how to make meth. Apparently, it is providing uncensored access. The service known as Onion GPT was announced on December 18th in a post to a dark web forum by an individual using the pseudonym Root, which at least Root, Onion, everything's working there. Everybody gets that joke. But apparently this is a thing, so we now have, the dark AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
it's here, Don. It's here, baby.
No, the dark web was further ahead than the world of recognizing AI. AI.
Yeah. Well, okay,
Go-
Don. Let's move into the new year.
But can I just say one thing?
Go ahead, baby. Go ahead. Jump in there.
The pornographic industry has
Oh, they have their own AI now too. They got their own AI.
But every advance in entertainment has always been foreshadowed by the porno industry, videotapes,
Yep.
Distribution, etc. I mean, there's no question. So there is a role for criminal activity in everything. And by the way, that's the other thing I'd like to, before we get the other thing that happened this year is the appearance, the widespread appearance of hackers. I mean,
yes.
that was an unreported story. And one other story that we need to talk about, just to mention it, is the fact that the media's abject cover-up of President Biden's faculty loss. I mean,
yeah.
The world would be a different place if the press had done its job.
Yes.
It did not do. I mean, you and I talked about it in July, in June. We talked about. I mean, the guy didn't have it. If you had a grandparent, you would have known that. Or in my case, I just know it from my own experience. Anyway, now we can go on.
By the way, the AI that the porn industry has is called GPTs.ai. and it is developed by a woman by the name of Sexwork CEO Melrose Michaels is what her name is. I've met her one time. She probably didn't like me because she treated me really nice. But apparently this GPTs.ai empowers adult creators worldwide. It is an AI assistant for brainstorming content ideas, video scripts, creating descriptions that convert more pay-per-views, and reigniting your creative spirit. Or making porn people more lazy than they already are. And that is from firsthand experience. Okay, so let's talk about this new year that we have. First of all, the truck guy who ran into everybody in New Orleans. The minute that they said it was a guy in a truck, I immediately went, Muslim? And I was right. I almost got a hold of IQ Hours Only and said, "Can you go on the air?" What did you think about that?
I think it's. I just said to my wife at lunch today. I would not like to be in Times Square next New Year's Eve.
Yep.
Because it's given everybody the idea. I mean, if you saw the picture, even with the rain and everything, I mean, it was packed. And if you could figure a way of getting past the police guards, which I know are going to be strengthened for that, no question. it shows we're living in a dangerous place. Uh, uh, Far more dangerous, I think, than the Cold War, because there at least you had rational men, mostly men, in charge. And you know, there's a book coming out by a, a Soviet someone who studies the Soviet Union, saying that the Russians never contemplated a world war because they were so horrified by World War II, you know, and some I forget whether it's 10 or 12 million Russians died in World War II, and they one out of every uh, one out of every two households in Russia were affected by World War II in some way. So
Yeah.
what we have now are a lot of petty people who are extremely petty, um, who are in charge of too many deadly weapons. So I think it's scary. You're right. I thought Muslim too. Um, I didn't. I thought New Orleans was the wrong place to do it. If you want worldwide attention, there's only one place to do it: New York City. Um, but uh, and we find out that the one in Las Vegas is he committed suicide, and I think his delusion was he was worried. I think it's going to come out that he's more worried about where the country was going to, or rather than being Islamic phobic or anything else. So that's how I look at it. I'm I just think it's a dangerous place. I expect three or four more incidents this year than the last 3 or 4 years. We have been remarkably successful in thwarting a lot of potential attacks. According to, again, whatever sources I have left in Washington, there have been a lot more abortive attacks than people have been made aware of, and because simply if one's brought out there uh, and publicized, someone else will figure out how to do it. And as someone said to me between Christmas and New Year's, uh, we're more worried about the crazies than the Arabs because the crazies seek publicity. In New York City, we have someone, I don't know if you saw where it literally burned the poor woman in the subway, set her afire.
Yep.
But the worst part about it is 4 days later, a man pushed a man in front of
In
a
front of
subway
the
train.
yep, in front of the subway train.
And why did he do it? Because he wanted the attention that the other guy had gotten. But it all comes down to is, do you publicize it or do you just quietly get it done and keep quiet? And law enforcement is settling for not telling anybody, and that's why I think a couple of them will happen. What to me is the most dangerous thing is we have two people that tried to shoot Trump. I mean,
Yep.
uh, and by the way, again, quoting the New York Times, um, uh, uh, Trump was really angry at the Iranians for trying to kill him. And there have been two verified attempts to kill Trump that are Iranian folk from Irania. So, it's going
Oh
to be
yeah.
interesting how he deals with them. But keep going on.
So Don, what did you think of that deal the other day with the Presidential Medal of Freedom? They This list, let me see here if I can find this because
Oh, it was some of his staff members. It was Hillary Clinton.
I'm like, what? Let's see. Presidential Medal of Freedom. Here it is. This is amazing. This list is just amazing. I don't know if this is a troll job or what this is, but he gave, first of all, Biden giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Hillary Clinton is the ultimate FU to the right. that is just completely. Let's see here. He gave one to
Anna Wintour, the woman. I forget the not Prada. The fashion woman who twice put Michelle Obama on the cover of her magazine, but didn't put Melanie.
Okay, so the list is on WhiteHouse.gov. He gave it to what you were just saying, Anna Wintour, who is a renowned fashion icon. She has led Vogue as the editor-in-chief since 1988. I don't know why she needs a Presidential Medal of Freedom. That to me is insane. I don't know this woman. I don't know why she gets a Medal of Freedom.
Did you ever see the movie Devil Wore Prada?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's her.
God. Okay, well, and they say Trump loves people from TV. Denzel Washington got it, which Denzel has done a heck of a lot. I don't think he deserves a Presidential Medal of Freedom. George Stevens Jr., who is an award-winning writer, director, and author and playwright.
They gave one to Soros.
And George Soros, which once again, it's another ha-ha. Well,
that to me is something utterly disgusting.
Yeah, that's a ha-ha to all the righties, and it's ha-ha. We're going to do whatever the hell we want type of thing. David Rubenstein, who is the co-founder and co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, which just sounds more New World Order than the New World Order. He built one of the most successful global investment firms. Need I say more? He is renowned for his philanthropy and generous support of the restoration of historic landmarks and the country's cultural institutions. I'm just going to stop at he's the co-chairman of the Carlyle Group, where they built one of the most successful global investment firms. That is the reason why he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. They gave it to George Romney, was a businessman who served as the chairman and president of American Motors Corporation.
Oh, yeah. What is his son is Senator Romney.
Of course he is. Well, it all works. It's all New World Order. It's just
supposedly the father saved for a while American Motors. When I was growing up, there were 7 major automotive firms in the United States. Now there's 3.
Of course there is. Of course there is. He gave one to Bill Nye the Science Guy, which Bill Nye has done a heck of a lot as far as educating young children on science. There's got to be something other than the Presidential Medal of Freedom that you give that guy. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but God, there's got to be something else, Don, that you give Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Well, I wouldn't argue with him. Bill Nye has done more
Yeah, he's
for science education. I
yeah,
think any other single person uh, that I know of. But
yeah. He's done a heck of a lot, but I'm like, there's gotta. And then of course, then you tear it all down, where it's Ralph Lauren, the fashion designer, got one. What? And RFK Sr., Robert Francis Kennedy, of course, the Attorney General, fiercely combated racial segregation, United States Senator. Uh, okay, I guess. Um, they gave one to Magic Johnson, which there's two things here. One, isn't there something else we could have besides the Presidential Medal of Freedom? But something else is, shouldn't we be giving it to Magic's doctor? Because that guy needs a Presidential Medal of Freedom.
well,
Because Magic has had AIDS, has had HIV and AIDS since the 80s.
yes.
30 years ago.
Okay.
So, he gave it to Fannie Lou Hamer, transformed the struggle for racial injustice in America as the founder of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Okay, so a Democrat.
You expected a Republican?
He gave it to Jane Goodall, which Jane Goodall has done some amazing things, much like Bill Nye the Science Guy. But once again, is there something else that we can give them, not the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Tim Gill, apparently he is a visionary entrepreneur whose work has advanced the LGBTQ, apparently the way this is written, LGBTQI, rights and equality. He sounds impressive. Once again, there's got to be something else than the presidential. Okay, then Michael J. Fox, which,
Well, for his work,
yes, he has done some amazing things, but once again,
his philanthropy. I forget what disease he has.
Parkinson's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's raised an awful lot of money for Parkinson research.
They gave it to Ashton Baldwin Carter, who served as the 25th Secretary of Defense and devoted his career to making the nation safer for all. He served under 11 Secretaries of Defense in both Democratic and Republican administrations. I don't know. And the last three on this list, I'm going to save the last two not in order of the way they are on here because there's a joke. But Jose Andres, who is a culinary innovator who apparently popularized tapas in the United States. I probably have pronounced that wrong. Apparently, he has the World Central Kitchen, which provides large-scale relief to communities affected by natural disasters and conflict around the world, which when I seen this trending on Twitter, there was all these various people who put all of his achievements up. So, yeah, he probably does deserve a Presidential Medal of Freedom. The last two on this list do not. One, because they're both frequent flyers on the Jeffrey Epstein planes. One being Hillary Clinton, which you could say everything from all time about Hillary. The other being Bono, which Bono frequent flyer on the Jeffrey Epstein plane. Bono, the only guy in the history of the world who, during a war in the Ukraine, was able to fly in and do a concert in a subway, which is amazing to me, Don. What do you think of Bono and Hillary Clinton getting this?
Well, my antipathy was and
Yep, go ahead, my friend. Go ahead.
my antipathy against that woman is such that no comment is necessary about the fact that she lost to Trump, and I don't know of the two who have lost to Trump which was the worst. And if you talk about Bono, what are you going to say? Um, uh, but I thought are we talking about Bono and Cher?
No, Bono is the lead singer of U2. Sonny Bono is who you're thinking of, which would be amazing if they gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, because that would be amazing. Sonny Bono, that's who they should have given it to. They should have given it posthumously, as they say, to Sonny Bono.
They gave it posthumously to Robert Kennedy.
There you go. We could give Sonny Bono one too. I'm gonna say we need to do Presidential Medal of Freedom with Sonny Bono the next time that Trump is in there. But
it was the real value of the presidential was for the Washington Performance Arts Center. It became the money winner for the Performance Center. They took an obscure medal and made the night of its presentation a presidential event, and to fill the endowment of the Washington Performance Center. That's why it became. To me, the real interesting thing is they didn't have enough time to put together a evening where the Performance Center would have made lots of money. So,
once again.
So what they did is they cheapened an event that was a very important Washington social event. Simply because the guy is 23 and gone.
Well, Don, as we wrap up here on this hour, where is the best spot to get in touch with you and buy your books and everything, my friend?
Ruler of the Seas. Thank you for keeping. It's actually you're keeping that book alive. I swear. Ruler of the Seas. It's the first of a trilogy. It's gotten some pretty good reviews. Hopefully, get some more. The National Robotics Education Foundation,
hyphen
NREF.com.
There you go.
.org. Got to remember that.
.org. That's right. Well, Don, I will see you on Thursday with IQ. I appreciate you making as much time as you did for us today. This was fun. We will definitely have to do this again. At some point, we'll get you and Larry Tracy together when Larry gets a cell phone figured out.
I would learn from him. And just remember, I have mouth, will travel.
Well, Don, I will talk to you soon, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you. There he goes. That is Don